Estates, and this is our continuation from the public hearing, and this is where the commissioners talk about their thoughts on this and then hopefully come to an agreement. So takers, we're going first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I have a prepared statement. I see this as a classic growth issue that happens 1,000 times over in Kootenai County. Individually, these types of developments have little impact on the larger community and county services. Collectively, they are significant. The developer has complied with all agency requests, including adding a throughway. Consequently, this led to the community collecting about 400 signatures out of about 700 residents in favor of stopping the throughway. This is significant. While I don't want to punish the developer, I believe that when a significant portion of the community speaks, it is incumbent upon elected officials to listen. It was also noted in the Community Development Report that KCSO only has 0.56 deputies per 1,000 residents, while Coeur d'Alene, Rathdrum, and Post Falls have 1.74, 1.58, and 1.26 police officers, respectively, per 1,000 residents. I believe it's time that we establish county service levels among the various departments. Community development cannot provide meaningful recommendations to the BOCC if we do not even know what level we're supposed to provide and how these developments may incrementally stress existing county services. I believe it's our job as a board to ensure that growth is responsibly managed. Without fully understanding how this development may or may not further stress existing county service levels, I am open to approving this development under the following conditions. The developer installs a gate with a restricted access code for residents of the community at the throughway and or for emergency vehicles, and the developer modifies the CC&Rs to have meaningful penalties assessed to any resident for breaching the buffer zone, or in lieu of the CC&R modifications, the developer installs a small fence separating the buffer from the end of the lots along the creek.
Okay.
And that's it.
Right. Bill?
I am most concerned about the creek and what might happen to it over time. It also seems to me that a subdivision like this does not fit well in the Bayview community. So it's a nice project, but I'm going to vote against it.
As was stated, the developer followed all the guidelines. So at this point, I think if they meet all their conditions as suggested by the hearing examiner, I don't see that this is going to have a huge impact. I have issues with the road, which I want to ask you a question. So the gate would allow all residents and emergency vehicles?
Yes, it just would not allow the public in general to use that community as a throughway. From what I understood, the community as a whole was not against the development.
Right.
What they were concerned about was the added traffic through what are otherwise very quiet parts of Bayview that are not throughways.
Okay, so I probably could just support that addition if legally we can do that. Pat?
Yes, you may. It's within your discretion to impose conditions of approval that are, that have a rational nexus to the impacts of the development.
Okay. Okay, so I like that idea because in general, I mean, Lakes Highway District has a board. They are supposed to be responsive to the public. So if the public had issue, they should have been there and taking it up with them. But I like the idea as long as the residents there can go in and out.
Yeah, and I think that, in this particular situation, I don't really feel like the highway board, highway district really took into consideration what the community was saying.
Well, did the community tell them?
Well, and I think that's where a lot of times the board ends up, the BOCC ends up being the place, the de facto place, when, or not always.
Right.
So, and then the only other stipulation was on the
With the what?
where the lot ends and the buffer zone begins, because there was a resident that brought up a point, and I thought it was a good point, and I could see this, where once someone buys their home, they want to extend their yard out a little further, and having some way to prevent that, either through just a 4-foot or 3-foot high chain link fence, so you can still see the wildlife, but the property owner knows that that's the end of their lot. And I don't think that would be expensive just for that one section of the development.
Yes, I don't want to punish people who are going to do the right thing, because I'd be worried about wildlife trying to jump over the fence and go through the fence and that kind of thing. So I would more likely support something. So CC&Rs are required because it's a major subdivision. Mm-hmm. So then I would say, having the CC&Rs recognize that buffer zone, and then that way we have a civil layer before it gets to our code enforcement, if that makes sense.
Is there a way to at least mark where those lot lines end so it's clear to residents? Because I don't know how much of their yard will blend in with the buffer zone. And again, I'm only bringing this up because, if the more we can eliminate those gray areas, the better it is, I think, for everyone in the long run.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. I think there should be something there to denote where the buffer zone begins. That way, there's some certainty, both for purposes of any potential civil litigation or code enforcement action.
So can we leave it to the CC&Rs and the homeowner to say what that delineates? Some people want a fence, some people want stakes, some people want,
I think we should have some minimum level of delineation, and if people want to go beyond that, then they can.
Okay, so I would say...
That would help us from a code enforcement standpoint if it gets to that level.
Yeah.
So then I would say stakes would be the minimum.
Surveyed
Stakes.
As long as it's something that, is clear, inarguable. Because even, sometimes I've seen this now, and again, I'm just trying to address the what ifs. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this, but things just tend to encroach. No one really says anything. The property gets purchased by another person. They go, it's always been this way. What are you doing? Well, I'm getting punished now. And that's why just the more clear we can make that, and if those stakes are not, going to be moved easily or anything like that, and forgive me for my ignorance of this process here, then that's satisfactory and some meaningful CC&Rs, the language.
I'm thinking surveyed and marked on the plat.
Yeah.
So it's a plat note.
Okay.
That way there's at least constructive notice for a buyer. They'll actually see on the face of the plat they get at closing that there's this buffer zone.
Yeah.
And there's a stick on the...
The stakes get moved or removed by whomever, and they can be replaced where there should be.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So those are the only two things I think that I would suggest going forward with, in addition to the conditions of approval from the hearing examiner. So you want me to do this, or you want to take a stab at it?
I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
Let me just make some notes here. And stakes in lots, notice and plats.
The gate restricting access to.
That second condition could actually be added to 7.13 because that covers the.
7.13 right here.
Yeah. And I think the other one would be a new condition.
Okay. Yeah, so 713 talks about the 75-foot street protection buffer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, so this, okay, so
Just
the
add that language to it.
7.13, okay.
and then the other one's just gonna have to be, 7.19.
7.19.
Yeah, unless, Pat, can we add it to the place where it talks about the road? Because I think it goes through all the different